On the Dig and Jeremy Kleiner. Nicholas Pinnock. Tom Bateman. Imogen Poots. Nina Haas. Tessa Thompson. And writer, director, producer, DaCosta. Thank you for joining us and congratulations. Thank you. Nia, I want to start with you. Yes. This is a reimagining and really a reinvention of the classic Ibsen play. You bring it into the 1950s. And what drew you originally to Hedda? And what do you think she, as a character, offers modern audiences?
Hedda does her intrusive thoughts. She's someone who acts on the intrusive thought, which the rest of us are like, no, don't do that, obviously, that's terrible. And she's someone who's tortured, she's someone who's hemmed in, she's someone who's afraid to free herself and afraid to stay locked in, and she's a sort of a malignant energy, but she's also hilarious, and she's also like fighting so hard to be able to love, and I think that energy in a character is so beautiful, and while not aspirational, it is very compelling. But there are things about her that are aspirational because I love that. I think this whole movie is about Hedda trying to get everyone to be more free, to get their animals out, even if it means they end up where all of the characters end up in the end.
When you say not aspirational, I want you to say more, because I feel the original play was less generous than you are in really trying to understand, not necessarily defend, but understand Hedda's kind of motivations.
Well, I mean, she does really cruel things, and there's no excuse for them. However, just to let you know where my morality lies. But you understand like the impetus. Like every time she does a cruel act or it tries to do a loving act or a positive act, something right before happens, and she's like immediately, boom, doing it, reactive, and I think we should all learn to love a bit better. But in the context of Hedda, I think she has aspirational aspects to her, you know, but she's not what we call a role model. But she never said she was a role model, so.
Tessa and Nia, this is your second collaboration. The first was Little Woods. Nia, did you know that you wanted Tessa for this lead role?
So when we were making Little Woods, every lunch, I'd be like, okay, so Tessa, I wrote this movie. It's about this artist, and she's kind of loses her mind. And then the next day, I'd be like, okay, so I wrote this movie, and it's about this and this person. And I'm always like, I'm like basically pitching her movies to do with me. and then I wrote Hedda, and I just knew it would be her. It wasn't a question in my mind. Like I know what she's capable of, and as always, she went above and beyond.
Tessa, you give a tour de force performance here. Hedda's a famously complex character. What was the process of you inhabiting this character, and did you feel a certain freedom in the fact that Nia kind of unmoored her from a very particular place and time and put her in this new era?
Yeah, I think so. I felt set free by the fact that I think we were making something very different that was inspired by the source material but was its own animal. I think there's a reason why Hedda Gabler as a character has captivated audiences for so long, and certainly actors for so long. But I think if I had thought about that too much. Although I watched every production I can get my hands on. I sort of ferociously studied the sense of what I think the performances were. I read reviews even of stage production. I really wanted to engage with it, but if I kind of then had to throw it away because if I thought about it too much, I couldn't find myself in it. And also, I was playing Hedda Gabler opposite Nina Haas, who played Hedda Gabler. So I just really, it's a gift to get to do what we do, and I think our Hedda is as much constructed by my performance as it is Nina's performance as Eileen, and Imogen's performance as Thea, and all of the cast, but these women in particular. I think what we wanted to talk about or explore, or the provocation is kind of like, it's hard to have agency as a human, and then you add any of the particulars of a given time, and it gets even harder. And there's a way in which when we cut parts of ourselves off, it's like death by increments, you know? In the original play, Hedda, of course, spoiler alert, dies at the end of it. I think this Hedda is a woman who's like dying to live. And I think these are two women that are dying to live in different ways too. And so for me, what I made is they made it with me. I couldn't have done any of it without them, and so that set me free too.
Tessa, as you said, Nina, you've played Hedda before, and I'm curious as your experience coming to this material from a completely different perspective as Eileen.
It didn't really matter to me if I had played Hedda or I wasn't even thinking about it, because I think I'm so intrigued by every kind of interpretation of that part, because it's just like you can't get a grip of this woman, and she will stay forever fascinating, I think, and I think you created a immensely fascinating. I mean, I loved it so much, and
But can you at least tell them that your Hedda had a band? Because I think that's so cool.
I had a band. It's good. No, and I just was so surprised by the fact that Mia had this idea that Eilert could, because in the play, it's my part as a man, and I read it and I thought, oh my God, this is so interesting, because it means so much. The stakes are so much higher for a woman to enter this academic world, to be a writer, to know this is the only thing I can do, and I'm good at it, and there's just this barrier that I can't push through, and she goes for it, and then she's a lesbian. It couldn't be worse.
Or better.
You know what I mean? At the time, and I was also like, whatever, you know. Whatever. So anyway, so it lots of obstacles, let's call it that. It's not an easy path she has, and she lives it, and she embraces it, and she enjoys it, and I think she had an amazing bohemian, free, radical, challenging life with Hedda, but she didn't. Hedda kind of retreated and wouldn't want to live it with her, and that I think is the biggest pain for Eileen, and that's what you see. I think that's what she's struggling with from the get-go. The moment she sees her, she knows, I'm lost. I'm in the bear's den, and this is not going to go down well. But she found someone in. Let's say the difference is that everything is so much deeper that she's a woman. Because with Eilert Löfborg, it was much more of a game. Everything was a game. But I think now with Eileen, everything goes into the guts, you know. And I thought, wow. I was very surprised by it and intrigued. So that drew me to her. Thank you.
character, Thea, makes a big leap in following Eileen and loving Eileen. And she finds herself kind of in the middle of this power struggle that started before she even came on the scene. What do you think she learns about herself during this night and who Eileen really is?
Yeah, I mean, so much. All in the course of one evening, she really does a 180. And that was the joy of playing a character like that, because I think it was all activated in the scenes themselves, this person coming to their senses, and with characters as complex as Hedda and Loveborg and Eileen and her love for her and all of that. It's very, very confronting and immediate. She's sort of like this newborn baby. Like that was the first time I'd seen it, actually. I was blown away, and it was just really, it's interesting watching something. You play a role in the film and you see it and then you process it, and I can see that she's sort of learning to stand on her legs again after having it's kind of saved her life in many ways. So it was really interesting to see how her character kind of comes of age, at any age, you know, with these very mercurial, unknowable women. Very cool.
I have questions for all of you, but I feel like we have to talk about the aesthetics and the gorgeous production and costume design of this film. This space of hedonistic abandon for all of this to unfold, and I have to ask what some of the challenges of realizing this world was.
Our production designer, Kara Brower, is here somewhere. She's amazing. And she did an incredible job, but this was really a labor of love between her and Nia and Sean Bobbitt, our incredible cinematographer, who is sadly not here. But we looked for this house. This house is all one actual house that exists in Flintham, which is like a tiny little town outside of Nottingham, 3 hours north of London, and we searched a million houses, and Nia and Kara went to 1,000 houses. Jeremy and I went to a bunch of houses, and a lot of very interesting owners own these houses, and convincing them to let us have.
We had some strange encounters.
Yeah, really
before
fun.
We found the house.
These people are lovely, they're wonderful. But we ended up finding this incredible house, and Kara just brought it to life, and it doesn't look anything like what you see. It's like a very beautiful, stately home, and we've transformed it.
I might add, this happens to be a project that was affected by the strike, and I just want to shout out everybody who stuck with it. Our line producer, Michael Constable's here, the folks at Amazon and Orion, everybody stuck with the project, and we were able to reset it and reconstruct it and not let that affect our ability to make the film, and that was also a challenge that this film overcame.
Actually, also, yeah, very amazing. Thank you for coming, guys. But also, the owners of the house let us keep our set dressing in place for the 3 or 4 months that we were stuck down.
What kind of parties do you think they had?
This is what I want to know. This is the thing. So one of the things that I found really fun about creating this is that it's like crazy hedonistic. However, I remember talking to historical experts and Stella, our amazing set deck. And I said, so tell me about cocaine in this time. And she literally goes, it would be on every surface. And I was like, oh my God, this is so lit. I was like, I didn't know they got down like that. So I really, and that also goes into the production design. You know, we wanted to be true to Hedda. And so Hedda is a modern woman. Salvador Dali was alive at the time. Like, she would have modern art. She would have, you know, the kind of, she would be listening to jazz and like, you know, avant-garde classical music. So that also goes into how we construct the house. You know, amazing set deck and cocaine.
And does that extend to the soundtrack and the use of modern songs as well?
Well, funnily enough, in the script I was like, oh, and then you have like a 1950s version of X contemporary song and Y contemporary song. And then I was like, that's a beat to Bridgerton, so we're not gonna do that. But then, it's collaboration with our studio's music department. They sent me lists and lists of 1950s songs, and then I saw It's So So Quiet, and I was like, what? I thought that was
it should have started with York, but
but it's a Betty Hutton song, and we have 2 Betty Hutton songs in the movie, and I was like, oh, that's the perfect way to connect now and then. That's actually a song from then, but most people in this room probably think it's Bjork wrote that song. So that's how, that's sort of the intentionality with which we all approached the project.
Today I learned. Nicholas and Tom, I wanted to talk to you. Judge Brack seems to have a great deal of control over Hedda at first, and a little bit more successful at controlling her than her husband. But both of these men orbit her throughout the film, and I'm just really curious to see where you felt like your characters' roles were in the kind of web of relationships that was happening that night.
Because what I thought was so amazing about what Nia did, bringing it into the 1950s, it's such a tense time of conflict and clashes between genders and race and class. So I found that each character almost sort of held a space of that. And for George, I thought, well, you are this very privileged white man who just assumes that his life is guaranteed, that this very blessed tenure professorship is guaranteed. What's amazing with what Ibsen does, and what Nia did even more with this, is to challenge all these characters with that. And what I loved so much about playing George was, as you say, he's trying to control this wife. He's like, wait, you're my wife now, you wanted this, I'm giving you what you want, do the wife thing, I'm gonna do this. And he's just challenged by these amazing women, which in of itself is a challenge for him, you know what I mean? That even, why am I envious of this woman? One of my favorite scenes that I got to play was with Nina, when finally George kind of expresses himself. And the way he expressed himself was going, how do I get a reins on this woman? How can I control this woman? What a crazy ass question to ask someone when you were sort of housewarming party. Very, very fun, for an actor to play those tensions. And this man just being confused at this world around him, I loved so much that he just never knew what anyone was doing, but he's got this sort of suppressed rage that the world doesn't see him in the way that he wants to be seen. I love playing George, he was cool.
I also think George is someone who is similar to Hedda in that they both want to be free in some way. His pathway, he thinks, is being super ambitious. Super ambitious, I'll get this thing off, I'll be powerful, I'll be free, which is, as I hope we all know, is not the way you free yourself. And he's like, no, I don't know what's happening, but also there's enough clues. He's like, lipstick, Brack always coming around a corner, but he's, in the same way that Hedda's living a lie, he's also living a lie, because he'd rather do that than actually free himself.
And as for the judge, there's an affinity between, Brack and Hedda. They're both people of color in this world that they've had to really kind of struggle to get to. He had to, in my head anyway, he had to really fight to get to being a judge in the 1950s. So then, he was played with, he didn't have the power, and he's in this power position, he's really playing everybody else around him. He's really not a good friend to George. I wouldn't want my friends to behave like that. We said that this movie really should be called Poor George. And what's the biggest challenge? It's to try and control Hedda, try and play with her, but he cannot win. He wants to be able to control everything around him, and he does as much as he can through George via Hedda in a background, but he just cannot get a grasp on this woman. Again, back in that time where, men had the autonomy, women were second-class citizens sort of thing. He wanted to be able to push that forward. He couldn't do it. She beat him at that game.
No one can control Hedda. Hedda can't even control herself. No one can understand Hedda. Hedda can't understand herself. And I think that to me, the fact that for over 100 years, everyone either has a very different interpretation or is have the foggiest idea, which I think is the most honest version of that. But I think if all of us thought back to even yesterday, we all have done something we don't know why we did it. For me, a week before this, I couldn't sleep. I was like, why can't I sleep? What's going on? I was like, oh, I'm nervous for this. And I just I didn't fully understand that. I think so many of us we're in a constant journey to know ourselves, emotionally, know why we do the things we do, why we love the way we love, why we pursue the things we pursue. And I think Hedda, because she's such an extreme example of someone who's just lost inside of that, is sort of a perennial, compelling and like vital person. And that's why she doesn't die at the end in this, because she's sort of unforgivable and indefensible, but she's valid and she deserves to exist.
It's such a smart and bold reimagining, Nia, and you make the story completely your own, and Tessa, you fully embody Hedda. Thank you so much for bringing this to Toronto. We're so happy to have you.